The man hiding in a shadow. In the cold industrial city of Munich, Germany, people knew Adrian Vale by many names. To his mother's relatives, he was the outsider. To the Filipino father he barely remembered, he was my son. To the young men who trained with him in basement gyms and back alley fight clubs, he was the blade. But to the police files that would later cross borders, oceans, and embassies, he became something else entirely. A fugitive. Adrian was born between worlds. His mother came from an old Albanian family who immigrated to East Germany, then moved to the West. The family has a reputation no one mentioned in public. His father, a quiet Filipino mechanic, disappeared from his life when Adrian was still a boy. At school, Adrian was mocked for not being enough of anything. Not German enough, not Albanian enough, not Filipino enough. So he built himself into something no one could laugh at. Karate first, then kickboxing, then grappling, then the sword. By 23, Adrian moved like a man, sharpened by anger, fast hands, cold eyes, a temper held behind his teeth like a lock animal. His uncle Victor, who helped raise him, was serving time for trafficking weapons and narcotics. Even behind prison glass, Victor still had power. His men still listened. His enemies still feared him. During one visit, Adrian leaned close to the phone and said, "They still don't respect me." Victor stared at him through the scratch glass. "Respect is not given," he said. "It is taken. But remember this. Your blood protects your blood. Watch over Marco." Marco was Victor's nephew, charming when sober and dangerous when high. When Victor went to prison, Marco took over the family business. He liked many nightclubs, cocaine, and humiliating the people close to him, especially Adrian. For months, Adrian swallowed the insults. Marco called him a half-breed, a servant, a dog on leash. He punished him in front of other men, laughed at his Filipino father, mocked his mother's weakness. Every insult fell like a match into dry grass. Then came the night at the auto shop. Rain beat against the roof. The place smelled of oil, rubber, and old metal. Marco was pacing, pupils wide, jaw tight, waving a pistol he had no reason to hold. "You think you're better than me?" Marco shouted. Adrian stood near the workbench, silent. "You're nothing without this family." "I protected you," Adrian said. Marco laughed. "You protected me? Because my father told you to. You are not family. You are barely useful." Something inside Adrian finally broke. No one outside the auto shop heard the first scream because thunder rolled across the city at the same moment. No one saw the blade flash beneath the yellow shop lights. No one knew that the cousin's rage had become another cousin's death. By dawn, the auto shop was burning. Flames climbed through the windows, smoke curled into the gray German sky. Firefighters found a body inside. But by then, Adrian Vale was already gone. He took cash, jewelry, false papers, and a one-way route through Europe. By the time police understood what had happened, he was on a plane headed east. 3 days later, an arrest warrant was issued. By then, Adrian had vanished. The years of shadows. The mountain town accepted Adrian without question. Under his new identity as Daniel Reyes, he became another quiet foreigner living among the pine-covered hills. He repaired generators, paid cash for everything, attended village festivals, and occasionally donated money whenever typhoon damaged homes. The older residents admired his generosity. The younger men respected his martial arts skills. No one suspected that the polite newcomer carried a past stained with blood. As the years passed, Adrian realized something. The mountains were the perfect hiding place, not only from the law, but also for building something of his own. Using contacts made during his travels, he quietly assembled a criminal network that stretched from the capital to several coastal cities. Unlike the reckless syndicate he had once served in Europe, Adrian insisted on discipline. Violence attracted attention. Greed invited betrayal. His organization specialized in carefully planned robberies, targeting wealthy foreign visitors who traveled alone in search of nightlife and companionship. Several attractive recruits worked inside bars and exclusive clubs, identifying easy targets. After gaining their confidence, the victims were lured to rented villas or private apartments where they were secretly drugged, cast expensive watches, jewelry, and digital wallets disappeared before the victims awakened hours later with little memory of the previous evening. Most were too embarrassed to report the crimes. Those who did rarely had enough evidence to identify anyone. The money flowed steadily. Adrian invested through shell businesses, purchased farmland under borrowed names, and quietly paid influential people who preferred not to ask questions. Small favors became large ones. Missing paperwork remained missing. Routine inspections never happened. Rumors researched him long before investigators arrived. He believed he had finally built something stronger than fear. For nearly 10 years, every search ended in failure. Each time investigators thought they had found him, Adrian was already somewhere else, protected by layers of false identities, loyal associates, and carefully cultivated influence. Then came Sophia. But admiration slowly turned into resentment. She was only 24, ambitious, intelligent, and eager to escape poverty. Adrian trusted her more than most because she never questioned his past. She handled bookkeeping for several of his businesses and quietly admired the mysterious mestizo who seemed untouchable. But admiration slowly turned into resentment. She noticed Adrian trusted older members of the organization while treating her like a child. Arguments became frequent. Promises of promotion never came. One evening, while browsing news stories online, Sophia froze. a decades-old international wanted bulletin appeared on her screen. The aging photograph showed a younger Adrian. The eyes were unmistakable. The notice described a homicide committed years earlier in Europe and announced a substantial reward for information leading to his capture. Sophia stared at the image for several minutes. Loyalty was valuable. Freedom was priceless. The reward represented more money than she could earn in many years. For 3 sleepless nights, she wrestled with her conscience before secretly contacting an international tip line through an encrypted connection. She expected the message to disappear into a database. Instead, it triggered the beginning of the end. Investigators quietly reopened dormant files. Surveillance teams arrived without attracting attention. Adrian noticed unfamiliar faces in the marketplace and vehicles parked where they had never been before. For the first time in almost a decade, the hunter had become the hunted once again. The empire he had built through fear, deception, and careful planning began to collapse, not because of a rival gang or a determined detective, but because one overlooked betrayal had pierced the fortress of secrets he believed was impossible to breach. He arrived in the mountain province under a new name, Daniel Reyes. The syndicate in Manila assured him the birth certificate and Philippines passport are authentic. The city greeted him with humid air, crowded terminals, shouting taxi drivers, and a chaos he found strangely comforting. No one looked too closely. He burned his German passport in his hotel, but later regretted it. He decided it's alright because he will never return to Germany, at least voluntarily. At first, he stayed in cheap hotels near Makati City. Then after talking to a frequent German tourist, he was fascinated with Sagada, 8 to 9 hours from Manila. He decided to move north into the mountains where fog swallowed roads and pine trees lean over narrow cliffs. In a town called San Isidro, he rented a small house above a vegetable farm. The locals saw a quiet balikbayan who spoke little, paid cash, and kept to himself. He bought coffee from the same stall every morning. He helped an old woman carry sacks of rice. He donated money when the chapel roof leaked. He quickly learned the language, but quiet men can still cast long shadows. At night, Adrian trained alone behind his house. He drove his fist into a heavy bag until his knuckles split. He swung a wooden sword through the mist. He ran mountain roads before sunrise, disappearing and returning like a ghost. Years passed. His beard grew thicker. His accent softened. His name, Daniel Reyes, became familiar, enough that no one questioned it. He learned which police officer liked envelopes of cash, which clerk could be paid to lose a document, which fixer in Manila could produce an identity card. But the past does not die simply because a man changes his name. In Germany, Detective Lena Hartmann kept Adrian's file on her desk long after other officers move on. The murder had been brutal, yes, but what bothered her most was the patience of the escape. Adrian had not run like a frightened man. He had planned like a soldier. Every year, she sent inquiries, immigration records, old airport lists, passport scans, rumors from informants. Most leads dissolve into nothing. Then almost 9 years later, a message arrived from a semi-retired Interpol officer in Southeast Asia. There was an anonymous tip seeking the 10,000 euros reward money. A half-breed in the mountains, European or American born, martial arts background, living under a local name, paying officials, avoiding cameras. Lena read the report 3 times. Then she picked up the phone. The operation took many months. German authorities coordinated with Philippine immigration and NBI. Local police coordinated with intelligence units who knew the mountains and the man who controlled them. But Adrian sensed movement. He noticed the same motorcycle twice in 1 week. A stranger asking questions at the market. A police truck parked too long near the municipal hall. That night, he opened the floorboard beneath his bed and pulled out a waterproof bag. Inside were cash, a knife, 2 passports, and a photograph of his mother when she was young. He stared at the photo for a long time. Then he burned it. At 4 in the morning, fog covered San Isidro like a white blanket. Roosters had not yet begun their noise. The town slept. The arrest team moved in quietly. 2 officers blocked the lower road. 3 came through the vegetable terraces. Immigration agents waited near the front gate. A van idled without headlights. Inside a house, Adrian woke before the knock. He heard boots on wet soil. For 1 second, he considered fighting. His hand went to the blade under the table. His body remembered every strike, every angle, every lesson. He imagined bursting through the back door, cutting through the fog, vanishing into the ravine. Then a voice called from outside. "Daniel Reyes, open the door." He smiled bitterly. That was not his name. He started using another identity after noticing some suspicious police activities. It had not been his name for a few years. The door crashed open. Adrian moved fast, but not fast enough. A shield slammed into him. Men shouted. A chair broke. He threw 1 officer against the wall, but another struck his leg and arms with truncheons. 3 more piled onto him. The blade skidded across the floor. Within seconds, his wrists were locked in steel. For the first time in nearly a decade, Adrian Vale had nowhere left to run. They brought him down the mountain as the sun rose. Villagers came out in slippers and jackets, whispering on the convoy past. The kind foreigner from the hill, the quiet man who bought coffee, the helpful neighbor. A killer, they now said. At the airport detention room, a Philippine officer placed the old German warrant on the table. Adrian looked at the paper and laughed softly. "You people took your time." The officer did not smile. "Justice walks slow sometimes, but it walks." Days later, Adrian was deported. On the flight back to Germany, he sat between two officers, staring out the window as the islands disappeared beneath clouds. For almost 10 years, he had lived inside borrowed names, paid protection, mountain fog, and silence. But every road has an end. When the plane landed in Munich, Germany, winter air struck his face like punishment. Detective Lena Hartman waited near the gate. Adrian recognized her from nowhere, yet somehow knew exactly who she was. "You found me," he said. Lena looked at him calmly. "No," she replied. "You carried the crime with you. We only followed the weight." The trial would come later. Witnesses would speak. Evidence would be shown. Lawyers would argue about rage, planning, family, and blood. But for Adrian Vale, the truth had already been decided in a burning auto shop years before. He had spent his life trying to belong to something powerful enough to protect him. In the end, the only thing that stayed with him was the one thing he could never escape: what he had done.